Simulated, it's essentially modern to about 400,000, 500,000
When you
years.
get a date, like, is it one date or so?
Oh, they play around with that a lot. I don't know. You need to get on websites of what's all that. But you do get a single date back. But you take background samples to get dose rates, and you've got to know sort of moisture content of the surrounding sediments, and but it's plus or minus 10%. It's again favorable to accelerator radiocarbonates. Great question.
More, I guess, on the dating. Have you had any opportunity to collect archaeomags, or are you just finding that unnecessary?
We haven't collected any archaeomags, as far as I know. The ceramic chronology, radiocarbon, or I think OSL or we rely on.
There's another reason for that. I think, as far as I know, we found only one hearth that was possibly clay that would have been appropriate for that dating technique. The primary hearth architecture that we find are usually slab-lined hearths or basin hearths, and surprisingly, we don't find a lot of clay floors and things that would be appropriate for that archaeomag digging technique. So that's another reason we haven't had the opportunity to try to use it.
You guys in the back.
What's DOX, D-O-X cliffs?
Dox is one of the geologic deposits in the Grand Canyon. It's a siltstone, so I don't know, a billion years old or something, something like that. And it's an area where some of the sites occur, and it's very friable, and a lot of the features were filled with Dox clasts, like Dox rocks derived from the Dox cliffs.
Yeah, just generally, it looks like, Lisa, from what you've been showing, a lot more going on down there than I ever realized was going on in the Grand Canyon in early days. Is that something that's coming out of this? Is there just a whole lot more archaeology down there than you thought, and a lot more living and moving and stuff going on? People down there.
I think that we always knew there was a lot going on down there, and I mean, just by the initial survey, one of the first surveys, they found like 7 sites, I believe, 8 sites on their little cruise through, and with the inventory done in 1990, 1991, that was probably a bit of a wake-up call that said, you know what, there's stuff here. There is stuff that's completely buried, and we need to take note of that and really start concentrating on that. I'm not too surprised by it. I mean, by what we're finding and what's down there. I mean, it's an incredible place, and you know, when there's water flowing, it's an incredible place for farming, water resources. In respect to more excavations and more work down there, we've got to work with the Bureau of Reclamation, and we're trying to excavate a few more sites, maybe not at this grand scale, but enough to help us identify more of the lifestyles and what was going on down there.
Can you tell us a little about the logistics of actually conducting that excavation down there? Like, how did you move the people on the
Nightmare. No, I mean, it takes a huge planning effort for feeding the crew, for getting Ted to get me numbers, who's coming down there, who's hiking in, who's hiking out, the river logistics. We've gotten down ever since even our first trip, knock on wood, it has all gone very smoothly. But I probably spend a good couple of weeks of 8-hour day, about 2 weeks, just trying to organize that work. And again, I'd like to acknowledge the people that I am working with are complete professionals, and you know, I can give them the specs on what we want to do, and because they're so familiar with where we're going, what we're doing, I mean, they have it down to a T. So, I mean, after about the second trip, it's gone pretty smoothly. But it is a lot of prep. Just even with the archaeological material, I mean, okay, Ted, how many shovels do we need? How many rigs? You know, how many screens, bags, vials? I mean, film, cameras. I mean, we've got it down to a science kind of, huh, Ted? But again, we do that pretty far in advance before the trips.
Is it all floated in?
They are all floated in by a raft, a rubberized raft. And the only time that we didn't do that was we're using motorboats during the motor season to haul all that gear with us. The trip in our second session for Furnace Flats is when that was in the non-motor season. So we were using rowboats, and I think we had to, we used like 10 plus rowboats just to get all this stuff, just to Phantom Ranch. And that was a bit of a nightmare. I think we're still trying to figure out payroll and stuff on that, but overtime. But it's going pretty good. You know, I get you in the back there, so
I was wondering about the orientation of the doorway in that habitation room. Was it towards the water or towards the east or anything specific?
Can you tell me which one you were talking about? Which particular structure? You saw a lot of them.
There was one that was labeled habitation room, and you can see it from above, and the doorway seemed to go off to the right.
And crash. Okay. The doorways that we found at the structures, both at Crash Canyon and also at Furnace Flats, tended to be generally in the southeast corner of the structure, and the doorway faced out to the south or southeast. In the case of Furnace Flats, that happened to point right at the river, but you might have noticed there at Crash Canyon, the doorway was oriented to the south, and so it just pointed out along the slope. So I think kind of to answer your question, the most important thing about the doorways were where they were positioned with respect to the cardinal directions, and at least as far as we can tell, not really positioned so you had a doorway that opened out onto the river, for example, as far as we know.
Hey, Lisa, pick two more and then do questions
Two more?
privately. Yeah. Just because of the
Who's
row.
got a good question? No. You guys pressure.
They're all good questions, there's only bad answers.
Two more. So, who's had their hand up for a while and I've ignored? Thanks, peanut gallery. Hey. Anybody? Oh, have you? I'm sorry, Lisa. Yeah.
Yes, Lisa, I just want to say, I've had so many questions, and I think that says a lot about the quality of your presentations. It's really stimulated a lot of interest. But just a fun question for you guys, since you all had so much to do with a lot of these incredible excavations. For each of you, what was something insightful or interesting that you want to share that really made you feel good about the careers you've chosen?
All right, in 5 words or less?
Beats working for a living.
I actually have to say, being a preservationist, in general, the excavations, I forgot how much you can learn from excavations, and that's just amazing me every day. Working with these guys has been incredible. The other one, I have two, and that's the public involvement. I'm surprised how much I love dealing with you guys. And, I mean, it's really incredible to have them come down and see the work we're doing on the river, and come into these places and just seeing the interest and trying to get the information out to you guys to educate everybody.
Let's see, what was the question? Well, I think one of the best parts of my job is to work with really great people. You know, we work with archaeologists, which most of them are a little off kilter with